We'll call the meeting to order. Let the record reflect that Tom Prinz is absent and Matt Widboom are absent this evening. Recognition of visitors and guests, we all welcome here this evening. Nice, brisk, nice, cool night to be out. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
.4 correspondence and recognition. We have no public participation that I've been aware of this evening. 1.42 is recognition of students and staff. I have no recognition this evening either that I've been told to give. So 1.43 is presentation by the ag plan of an ag plan by the high school ag department. I'd like to welcome them here.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to share our plan with you tonight. I'm Matt Tripp, teach agriculture at the high school. Deb Martin, Brett Schmidt, Katie Christopher, and then we have Jeff Rogers and Dusty Neugebauer from Minnesota West here tonight as well. We've met several times as a department and with Minnesota West to create a starting point for this program with the purchased land, recently purchased land by ISD 518. We're excited for what the potential opportunities we have with this land lab that we can offer to our students. We believe we can utilize the land lab for our Ag Exploration 9, Ag Science 10, Ag Production 11, and Ag Business 12 courses, as well as other courses that we teach at the high school by incorporating them with the land and activities we can do, whether now or down the road in the future. By working together with Minnesota West, our students will have the opportunity to experience and learn new things related to agriculture, while also having an opportunity to be mentored by students at Minnesota West. It is our hope that this will expose our students to more lab experiences and ultimately get them to consider a career in agriculture. And it would also be an added bonus if some of them are inspired to return to this area to focus on a career in agriculture and raise their family here. So I'll turn it over to Katie and she'll kind of explain the packet that was handed out.
Yeah, so we handed out the packet in front of you. This is detailing the courses at the Worthington High School that we see fitting into the program to start with. For each course, we have identified those core ag courses, Ag 9, Ag 10, Ag 11, and Ag 12, as well as our concurrent enrollment horticulture course and gardening. We've listed when it is normally offered, along with the standards that we follow in that course that would relate to the land lab. In the third and fourth columns, we've listed the learning topics that we already cover and do, or could see incorporating into our classes with the land lab. So in each of those columns, for example, Agriculture 9, we talk about plant science, so we could do plant ID, weed identification. Agriculture 10, we already focus on soil and so and do some of those labs, but could utilize the land lab in that way, doing soil tests, soil texturing. Another component that we've already discussed is with Agriculture 11, working with the corn and soybean production course at Minnesota West to make a plan for seed choices, fertilizer choices, and creating presentations and learning in that way. So those are some of the ways that we see it fitting into the courses we offer. But like Matt said, we think there's also room for growth. we could see it beneficial as getting our concurrent enrollment agronomy course up and running, and could be a great asset to that course. Additionally, with its location, it could potentially be implemented within our middle school courses, which currently serve 7th and 8th grade students. So it would be a good opportunity to be able to bring those middle school students over to collaborate with potentially the high school and college. Do you have any questions about that piece yet? Minnesota West was just going to say a few words about how they see themselves utilizing the Land Lab in collaboration with us as well.
So at Minnesota West, we were approached to kind of develop this new land purchase into kind of an educational lab for production agriculture. And, you know, it only seems fitting for us, the proximity of it for Minnesota West, and all of our coursework is revolved around production ag. So I think it'd be a great opportunity for our students as well as the high school students at whatever level it is to work cooperatively and you know, just learn more about what goes on with production agriculture out there. Mostly we're going to be in a supportive role for the high school ag program. You know, if we can, we would be the ones developing the labs out there and having the high school or middle school students out, and mentoring our students would be mentoring with those students at the high school. So great opportunity for education in agriculture. So I think Dusty, you've been working on this already, Dusty? You want to make a few comments? So he's already, and getting ahead of the time because this hasn't been approved yet, obviously, but we know it's January yet, but April's going to come soon. So we've been kind of developing, working through with our students. I think they have plans to maybe have that proposal with the high school students, or mix those students together and develop that proposal here shortly on, you know, just developing seed selection and or fertility and some things like that. So we've been working on it, progressing, hoping this goes through, but we certainly know it's still needs your approval. So thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
So just a quick question. So right now, Jeff, Katie, there's not any concurrent classes with the ag classes with the high school and Minnesota West, or that's in the plan, or that could be, or how do you see that concurrent class piece working?
We currently offer 2 concurrent enrollment classes. Deb teaches horticulture.
Okay, so horticulture is one already concurrent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Brett teaches animal science.
Okay. Okay.
We are hoping to run an agronomy one, but we haven't been able to run it in the schedule yet. So we're hoping to increase numbers for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions for the ag departments? Do you have a plan yet to, as far as the property goes, to plant the crop and to have, how's that going to work? I mean, is we going to have a actually planting season out there and a marketing session, or who's going to get the crop and who isn't, and that kind of thing?
When we met at the work sessions, and we discussed this a lot, just amongst the the school board members that were present and us as ag instructors, but plans right now would be that it would be custom farm. Preferably it would be, possibly related to a student that's in the high school ag program, hoping that he wants to move to the college, or we're going to go to the public and find, you know, who would be willing to work with us, because we would like to have, you know, we would like to have planter clinics and sprayer clinics, combine clinics out there. And we know that producers now are busy and it doesn't always work. So we tossed around maybe reaching out to, you know, the businesses in town, Titan and C&B, and see if we could maybe possibly utilize their equipment. And I don't know what the laws are as far as high school students operating equipment, but the college students would be able to do that, but we would certainly want the high school students there involved. So right now, plans would be to just have it custom farm.
Okay. Along with some agronomy education for the kids involved in that.
Lots of agronomy, soils, weed science, yes, as far as that goes. So, and as far as the management courses, the marketing courses, so we would incorporate, you know, we're going to incorporate these labs into our existing classes and then work with the high school as far as that goes. But concurrent courses would be very fitting for that.
Aaron?
I have a couple questions for the high school teachers. And we've kind of talked a little bit about this in the operations committee, but it'd be good for the whole board to hear it. About how many high school students are enrolled in these ag classes that would have the opportunity to get this type of hands-on learning? That's my first question. And then the second is, could you just talk a little bit about like the budgeting here and like how the finances would work for this project?
We would, right now, those courses, between our core courses, we have 3 sections of gardening, usually. Yeah, horticulture, so probably over 200 to begin with. It's probably a good estimate. As far as budgeting goes, the finances would run through the school. And so we presented the budget at the operations committee, but the financials would run through the actual school.
So essentially, District 518 it would be the bank account for this property, but then all revenues from production goes back to District 518 as well. So,
Dusty, I see you're in the Pioneer business. How do you see seed companies getting involved in helping with providing some input for test plots and so on?
Excuse me. Yeah, that probably could be a possibility. I think, you know, where we're at in the stage of it, I think it has to be something that the companies are going to have to know where the funds are going to. And I don't know if we are able to answer that, if we custom farm it, what the district does with the funds. You know, and I think that's where seed companies they might be very interested, but I think they're going to want to know where their dollars are going to. That makes sense?
Yeah,
Answer your
it does.
question?
Right, it does. I just was curious how if we get involvement from chemical companies, seed companies, and
I think we could. I haven't, nobody I don't think has reached out to anyone yet, other than, you know, maybe like we talked about with the C&B or a Titan for equipment wise. I think the pullback might be is where's the profits going to, might be their question. And that's something that obviously I can't answer from the Minnesota West side. I don't think the high school ag teachers could answer. That'd be on you guys as the guys and gals as the board to be able to answer that question for those donations.
okay, thank you. Since you're a Pioneer guy, you can promote it for us, right?
That's one thing we did talk about a little bit was any of these avenues where we could maybe go and get something. That's something like for myself, being as I'm in that industry, I want to step away out of that because I'm going to be helping on the instruction side. So I would rather somebody else in the Pioneer industry can take that over instead of myself.
All right.
There's no conflict of interest. And that's also on the side of the custom farming. If it happens to be, we get late planting, right? So it's May 20th and we got to get that planted. If we can't find anybody that would be willing to come in and do it, maybe I bring my planter, or Jeff could bring his, or Martin could bring theirs. Whoever could plant it would be the person that we would hope that this group could just decide someone can do it for us and get the crop in so that we can still learn from it whatever time we have left of the school year.
Right.
That makes sense. We
Right,
just want a
right.
conflict of interest
Right,
to
right.
be a thing with us, so.
Very good, thank you. Any further questions for the Ag Department? Okay, hearing none, we thank you for your presentation. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of agenda. We have the removal from the consent agenda, 4.23, termination. We'll take off the consent agenda. And we want to add to the main agenda 5.9, which is budget, 24-25 budget calendar and assumptions. We want to add that to the main agenda as 5.9.
Budget assumption? Budget assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. Budget calendar and assumptions. So with those two changes, we can approve the agendas, if so be.
I so move approval of both the consent and main agenda with those changes.
A motion by Lori,
Second.
second by Adam to approve the consent agenda and main agenda with those changes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 3.0, approval of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move the approval of the minutes of the December 19th, 2023 school board meeting and the January 8th, 2024 special school board meeting, along with accepting the committee meeting minutes that were included.
Okay, motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Aaron to approve the minutes, 3.1 and 3.2. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 4.0, approve the items on the consent agenda.
I so move.
Motion by Lori,
Second.
second by Adam to approve the items on the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.0, main agenda. 5.1, monthly financial overview. Dave?
We should have the revenues and expenditures through the end of December, so we're halfway through our fiscal year. As you can see, the revenues are just about 46, a little over 46%, a little higher than the same time last year. The expenditures are right at 40%, which was a little lower than where we were at this time last year. You also have a budget amendment on the agenda later, which is not reflected in these figures, so if that gets approved, that will change these up a little bit. But nothing unusual or extraordinary on either side of the ledger. So.
Okay, any questions for Dave? Hearing none, we'll move on to 5.2. Approve second reading of policy 606, textbooks and instructional materials.
So policy 606, we actually had a committee meeting. Let's see, it would have been Monday morning. There were some adjustments that were sent out, and then there were some emails that went from the committee this afternoon, and a couple of adjustments were made. related to that. Example I will give you on that was in, if I can find it quick, on page 7, number 10, in the second paragraph, there was the word may was changed to shall. So there were a couple minor tweaks, a couple of the suggestions, those changes were not made. And with that then, I also shared with you the attorney critique that he was fine with the policy, and he also shared some case law with that, and that realistically, the policy could change, but that was an administrative decision and was backed up by that case law that was there. So I would recommend you approve the policy as it's written. It's been adjusted. There were, again, a couple minors. So what you have in front of you that was on the table is with all the adjustments and changes, either from the committee or the couple that were made today.
Okay. We need a motion.
I move to approve the second reading of policy 606 with the changes that were made yesterday and this afternoon.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the second reading of policy 606 with changes that were made today. Okay, it's up for discussion.
Are there any members of the review committee here who could speak to the review committee's recommendation?
I believe Beck is here. And who else?
Carrie Adams is here.
Okay. So you can surely ask questions to the committee,
Yeah,
and
Josh
Laurie's
Noble.
on it,
And Josh Noble's on it.
and Josh is on it. So any questions you can sure ask. Or if they have comments, they can also.
Yeah, I guess I'd be curious to know, like, from the staff who are on the review committee, if they, if all of the recommendations that they felt were necessary were incorporated into this final draft that we have here today.
Okay, Becca? And what's the other lady?
Seems to change, so I never know where I'm supposed to stand. So we've met, and we did go through the reviews today. And I think with the edits that were sent today, the conversation that I had also today, expressing that ultimately in the process, it goes through the steps, it goes through the committees, ultimately it ends here. Anytime there is an objection, then that objector can take that to the next level, where the end answer is in your hands. So if the objector wants to continue to go through the steps, if they're not happy with what's decided with the principal and then the building committee and then the evaluation committee, that it ends here. And that is what we have agreed to. So with that, knowing that that objector can continue to push that objection through in that diplomatic process, we had agreed to be comfortable with that. That's what really the original policy had said. So I don't know where you're standing. Oh, you're there. Okay. Were there any questions about anything else?
Any questions for Becca or
Carrie?
committee? Carrie?
Yeah.
Carrie, I get your name right.
Well, I personally would just like to thank the committee again for all the efforts that they put into reviewing and re-reviewing and early morning meetings and looking at it from many different angles and perspectives, and I think we've got a policy here now that we can continue to adjust in the future. A policy is only good for the one time it's used, and then if we need to make changes in the future, we certainly can. But again, very appreciative of the committee and the work that was done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think we're ready. Any questions for the board or any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll ask for the vote to approve the second reading of policy 606 as presented this evening. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to 5.21, approve the removal of or allowance of the current flags and materials in question at the high school.
So this one's on there based on the fact that we've now been 3.5 months into this process. The board is very aware of where things are at. And again, some may ask why it doesn't go back through the policy. This is something that was never approved prior to it being brought to the administrator's attention. And again, it's all at the board level now as far as a decision. And again, I'll remind you that the attorney did confirm that this was an administrative decision, so it's time to make a decision.
Okay, the recommended action is to approve the removal or allowance of the current flags and materials in question at the high school. So it's up to the board here.
That's of all material, so in the end, is that, whose decision will that be as of now to decide what material? That'll be up to you, or will that be up to Tony?
As far as,
Anything that is, I guess, current flags and materials, I'm thinking there's other stuff that we're probably not.
well, so if it's something that hasn't been addressed, it'll go through the policy. So it'll be,
So it's just the current situation.
yeah, it's just the current situation.
So in my mind, this is just the current situation, so it's basically about one flag and nothing else that's at the high school at this time.
Is it one or two flags?
Well, whatever is in one particular classroom.
Mr. Landgard, could you please define the current situation so we understand the scope of it?
So the original decision was related to, we had a concern expressed about what was up in a classroom. With that, then I visited with Mr. Hastings, and it was to remove the two flags that were in the classroom. The college flags we've allowed in our district, so that's not the one. If I understand, there's 3 different flags in there. So with that, then that was the decision, and that's where it all has started and stemmed from and grown to. So it would be, at this point, because that's the issue, if there are other things, again, that pop up that are related to it, a past history has been, example, when we've had, we have not allowed past flags to be flown in the district. So there is precedence for that, such as a Black Lives Matter. They celebrate Black Lives Month, but it's not with a flag. So there is a history there. So with that, it would be strictly this issue at hand, and then if there's something else that comes up, it goes through the policy.
So what are the 3 flags in question?
Currently, it's the Puerto Rican flag and the flag that represents the pride flag in the classroom.
And what about the third?
That's if I understand right, that's a college flag.
So are you asking that all three of them be removed?
We've allowed college flags to be in classroom because it's an educational background.
Okay. And what are the reasonings behind wanting to remove the other two flags from the classroom?
They are deemed as a potential controversial topic or issue or item. And that's where the complaint came from.
The original complaint was about really the one flag, the LGBTQ community, that
Correct.
flag, okay, was
Yep.
the one the complaint was about. Okay.
And how is a Puerto Rican flag controversial?
It's been a social issue of what has been controversial up and down and on. And again, I'm going to stop you a little bit. I'm not on trial here. We made the decision. Now it's your turn to make a decision.
Well, I feel like in order for me to be able to make a decision about this very fact-specific situation, I need to understand what is the administration's reasoning behind this, because I don't understand the.
It's not part of it's also not part of our curriculum, and that's the other side of it. Again, it's not curriculum, controversial, and that's where the decision was based on.
The case that the attorney cited, it's a recent Minnesota case where it stated that the things that are on the walls in public schools are protected under the government speech doctrine. And this, backing up a bit, the flags that were hung, or the posters that were on the wall in this particular case, were Black Lives Matters posters that were endorsed by the school district. And when the government got sued when the school got sued after the school said, well, just because we have these posters up doesn't mean that we have to allow Blue Lives Matter or other political posters, the court ruled that that's correct. The school doesn't have to allow all of the posters just because it allows one, and that's because that action was protected under this government speech doctrine, stating that the posters is government speech. Because it's a public school, it's on their walls, it is government speech. That expression does not belong to a private citizen. And so if we are taking that case as precedent here, we're saying that, no, it's not up to the teacher what can be hung on the walls, because what's on the walls is government speech. But it doesn't say that we can't have those posters on the wall. And so my line of questioning to Mr. Landgard is to understand why not have these flags up or these posters on the walls? What's wrong with them? Why, if it's a balancing test, I think there's more good than harm being done by having something on the walls that says everyone is welcome here. It may make some students uncomfortable, but I would argue that it makes many, many more students feel comfortable in the classroom. And I think it's imperative that we take actions as a school district that are going to encourage staff to stay here, encourage potential teachers to want to work here. The types of actions that are demonstrating that we don't support this type of expression is not going to help us fill the teacher gap. I guarantee it. And so we have to be wise about what, as a district, we want to show as a sign of our a support to our staff and students.
Chair,
Thank you. Steve?
my position on flags has always been pretty much the same before this even started. I think the appropriate flags in public buildings in the state of Minnesota should be the United States flag and the state of Minnesota flag. I think those are the appropriate flags we fly in our state. We fly our state flag and the national flag. Go down to Iowa, I don't expect them to be flying Minnesota flags in Iowa or Texas or any place else. They fly their state flags also. I don't have anything against people, wanting to bring their flags with them, fly them at their homes, stuff like this, but I think in a public building in the state of Minnesota, the Minnesota flag and the United States flag are our two flags that we fly. And the other flags, you can be proud of where you live, but you also came here and you're going to school here and you're part of our state of Minnesota. And you should also be proud to be here and be proud to support the state of Minnesota and the United States flag. I don't take anything away from people who came from any other country in this world. But I don't think our school and our public buildings are the place to fly. Doesn't mean there might be occasions when we would fly those flags or use those flags for a reason. But I think then that if that's the reason, then we should go through the process through the administration and the curriculum and how that works. For example, if we're going to fly the German flag, it might be appropriate to have to do with our Kreilsheim affiliation with Germany. We have other exchange students that come from different places, and if we're celebrating the diversity and stuff of our district, we may want to invite those flags on a special occasion. But to fly them on a day-to-day basis, I think the appropriate flags should be those two flags, and the other flags allowed through the curriculum or through a celebration where it be appropriate for those to be present. Otherwise, no. That's my position.
Okay.
So my question to you, Aaron, is, I think you brought this up last meeting too, Steve. Where did we get that people aren't welcome in this district? Why does it take whatever pride flag or whatever to make you feel welcome? I mean, I think the teachers and I think the administration do a pretty good job at that. And I think that we sit here as a board and do a good job of that. I mean, I really don't know what we don't give people at this table to not feel welcome in our district.
So I think you and I can sit here in a seat of privilege because you and I guess I'll speak for myself. I have not faced significant adversity, and I am not part of many minority groups. So that I never felt like I had to seek out a teacher who was like me in order to feel comfortable in school. But that's not the reality for many of our students. Our students feel marginalized, they feel different, they feel like there's not a space for them in like the structure of a school environment. And you think about like all of the kids who are suffering from mental health or bullying or like even just low self-confidence. Like my sister didn't come out until her mid-20s. And she had a lot of challenges and difficulties getting to that point. Did she have a role model in high school? I don't think so. She graduated from this school in 2016. And there are kids out there, trust me, that all they need is to know who they can turn to. And it's not obvious necessarily in school who is an ally. And in southwestern Minnesota, not everybody is. So it's important that teachers have an opportunity to let students know, like, I'm safe. I support you. And I think that there's so much more good that comes out of that open identifier than making some students feel uncomfortable.
And our question is about flags, and I don't know how a Texas flag or a Japanese flag or a Puerto Rican flag or whatever flag sends the message that you're referring to necessarily, and how that would fit into what you're saying, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I just think that the appropriate flag is the two flags that I mentioned earlier. I think making students feel welcome and helping them identify people that they can confide in can be challenging, and it takes the right staff, if that's who's doing it, to do that. I don't know if it has to be through symbolism, or it can be through your interaction with students. For all people to feel welcome, we should all be working on that goal. We should be, treating everybody equally and with respect and with love. And I don't think that that bullying, regardless of how the bullying's happening or who it's being done, it should be tolerated or is tolerated in our district. If it's happening, then we better try to find a way to tampen that down and make it clear that bullying is not permitted, regardless of who's being bullying or for the reason they're being bullying. Bullying's been happening for many, many, many decades, probably centuries. Not right, never has been right, and never should be permitted. But I think we finally reached a point in our society where we realize that that's something that we have to take more action on, be more aware of, and when we can deal with it, deal with it. But I don't see how our question at hand, which is flying of flags, fixes that problem, nor is necessary for us to be doing this. And I think we have many other tools that we can use to make students feel welcome and to make them have avenues avenues that they can pursue to work with that. And as a school district, I don't think we're doing everything right, but I think we have room for improvement. And I just don't like to think that the only way you can do this is by hanging flags and banners and symbols on our walls. If we're doing that and ignoring all the other good things we should be doing, then we're doing it wrong. We should be doing the other part first and making sure everybody feels welcome and everybody is respected. And I think in doing that, we don't need the rest of this stuff.
Okay, any further discussion,
I just
Lori?
have one question. Was the initial complaint at hand about one flag, or all three flags, or two flags, or? I'm going back to what the original complaint was, which we had. And then we have to take that complaint and bring it full circle. And we don't have to go through the committee or the policy now, because it's going to come full circle back to us anyway. So we need to make a decision about the complaint. And that, to me, if the complaint was about one flag and it comes all the way back to us, then we as a board now need to decide if one flag's coming down or two flags or three flags. The original complaint was about one flag.
No, one.
So I'm going to support at this point, somebody else can make the motion, but about one flag coming down, because it's going to come back all the way here anyway. I have a whole stack of, we had a public meeting. We have so much information that's come back to us. And I think on my side of this, it doesn't matter how I feel about it, but I had more people say that they were uncomfortable knowing that a pride flag was flying in a classroom. Students uncomfortable coming in and out, or parents, or it being flown during a parent-teacher conference or whatever. It's not about what I think about it. I think, we should be very open-minded and let all kids feel, welcomed and safe in a classroom. But at this point, we have a complaint about a particular flag, and not everybody's comfortable. It's controversial in some people's minds. It may not be in mine, but in some people. So we as a board need to decide if we're going to bring this down or leave it up.
Okay, any further discussion?
I make the motion to approve 5.21 removal of the current flags and materials in question.
A motion by Adam,
Second, Steve.
second by Steve, to approve the removal of the current flag in question at the high school. That worded correctly? One flag?
Yeah, we addressed 2 flags because of what Mr. Sneeder explained, what the appropriate flag is, but the original complaint was 1.
Any further discussion?
Just a clarification, the motion was for
2. Yeah,
both of
I'm
those
talking
flags, right?
about
Yes.
2 flags.
2 flags.
2 of the 3,
2 of the 3, okay.
which was the addressed concern, right, John?
Pardon me?
That was the addressed concern.
That's what administratively we addressed, yes.
Okay, Steve?
I just want to say too that I agree with the essential that people's desire to want to have it easier for students to understand who supports or who may not necessarily agree or disagree. And out here again, I don't know how you sometimes find out people who disagree unless you hear comments they make or how they address or treat people. But I certainly do agree with us supporting the students and finding a way to do that through support groups. I don't have the complete answer, but I think we, as a district, we should be having people working together to find a way to do that. That could mean, for example, you don't fly a flag, but if you have a lapel pin, maybe something like that would be acceptable. If somebody has other ideas of how this would be a little more subtle and a little bit more personal, instead of banners and flags in our classrooms and our walls, as compared to somebody having a lapel pin or something else that they elected to wear, such as jewelry, that might help with that need if that's one of the questions or concerns that we have. So I'm not against any of those types of concepts and ideas. I just don't feel the banners and flags on the wall seem to be the controversial issue that we're dealing with. And like I said, I never did agree with any other flags but those 2. But I do think we need to work harder at how we support the students and how we can go about doing that. And what, we may not agree with one aspect of it, but there might be another aspect that is more than manageable and understandable that can accomplish what some people think is necessary and help those students if that's what it comes to. As you talk to students, and Aaron is completely correct, the way they see it and the way they react to things is a lot different than what I might see or other people might see. And I don't want to marginalize their thoughts, ideas, opinions, or lifestyles, but I think we want to be trying to help them and not just put symbols and signs up on the walls that make it sound like we're doing something, but we're not. I'd rather have more action and less show and go.
And that goes back to my original question that I first had for Aaron. What haven't we done? Still don't, sitting here, have we not brought in extra counselors and things in our schools to help support these kids and do a few things like that?
So there's a number of things that have gone on. Do I think it's enough to support students and or staff? Probably not. But again, we've brought mental health counselors in because the counselors at the high school, that's where it started, had concerns about student mental health. So we've done that. And again, are we doing everything we can do? Maybe not. Again, money becomes an issue, or availability. Can you find these support systems? It isn't. We want to support every kid that comes to our school. And I think overall we've done a pretty good job of that. Are we at a level we need to be at? Probably not. But this shouldn't be a battle. I keep saying this is all about relationships. And me treating you or Mr. Lorenz the same way, and caring about what they do. And again, this has gotten blown, this whole conversation and issue has gotten blown well past what it should be. Because at one point, people were believing we were going to take their necklaces with whatever symbol they may have away from them. That was never the goal. It's just like some people even thought we were going to make people quit wearing sandals. No, that's not what this is all about. It's items that bring up a disruption in the school building and the story. And it doesn't mean I'm going to treat anyone differently or anybody should be treated differently. Again, it's all about relationships. And that's what teachers need to be good at for us to help all students.
So to be clear, this motion is to remove 2 flags and 2 flags
American
only.
flag and the pride flag.
In just one classroom. This is just about the complaint in one classroom.
And we might have more coming.
And again, if these things come up in other areas of this building or another building, those will have to get addressed, and we have a policy in place to address them. So,
Well, and I'll be honest, one thing that really bothers me about all the time and effort that's been put into this policy that the school district already had, we put a lot of time into that, but in November, we got told how bad our scorings, our academics are in certain areas, but then we put the effort into this, but ever since then, what have we talked about to help the kids in the classroom to do better? Reading, math, writing. We don't talk about it. We just kind of push that to the side, and I just felt like this has been way overdone, and it's time to put it to bed, and we're going to have more issues come up. Steve is exactly right. The flag that I feel it should be in the classroom is the U.S. flag, the state flag. And I kind of feel like it's a slam to me. I've been on this board for 5 years, not as much as you guys, but I felt like we have done everything, given every tool possible to our district to help support these kids, make them feel welcome. And John's right. We probably aren't perfect, but what don't we try and do? I'm sure there's going to be people upset with this decision tonight, but deal with it. Not everybody's going to be happy. And I'm ready to put it to bed. I want the controversy over. We need to focus on our kids and helping them do better in the classroom. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Any other comments? We're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion, which is to remove the 2 flags in question at the high school, that one particular class. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 5.3, approve revised 24-25 Vibe calendar.
so the Vibe calendar didn't have the alignment for the spring break, which is the last full week in March, and that was adjusted and corrected. And we're asking you to reapprove that Vibe calendar so it aligns better with those in-person student calendar.
Okay, need a motion?
I move approval of the revised Vibe calendar.
Motion by Adam,
Second, Steve.
by Steve, to approve the revised 24-25 Vibe calendar. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.4, Ace Arena discussion.
So this discussion is related to, we have a meeting scheduled for January 25th with the city. I don't believe the county commissioners are planning to attend, although Mr. Heitkamp did share that one of them may be in attendance. Anyway, but their overall decision at this point, the county said they are not interested in participating collaboratively with the project, as I understand it at this point. But with this, if it's going to move forward, the goal from the first work session or meeting was to discuss and have, if the district wants to continue in the collaboration, and what that commitment may be.
Any discussion about the ice arena? We have a meeting scheduled the 25th.
How much was it to fix the ice arena up that we currently have, John? Was it 22 million?
To fix it totally like new? Yeah, it was about, actually, it was about, I think it was about 18 million roughly. Depending on what they did, they were talking about adding an additional sheet, and I think that's when it got to the 22. So it was in that 16 to 18 million.
I think they also talked about it costing 5 million if they were just going to fix the existing structure, Band-Aid it, which is not, a great long-term option, but that number was thrown out, I think.
Correct. Yeah, I think they were anywhere from 4 to 6 million on what most of us would probably call a Band-Aid solution.
That extra sheet was going to be an outside.
Yeah, I think for that it was outside.
Well, I'll be honest, with the high school addition and everything else we're looking at, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards right now. And I mean, it's no slam to hockey. I like hockey, but Worthington is not a hockey-driven community. We have a lot of sports and athletics that people support, and if that can fix up that arena, I think the location is great. I mean, I've been driving past there a lot, obviously, with my grader cleaning roads, and I'm just like, I just think it's a good location. I think with the ag plan we have now, to use the land for education, I hate to go take a big chunk of that away, which someday will probably happen, but I'm in support of fixing it up and making it what they need it to be, and give them that extra sheet of ice so they have some more room. And I'd have to hope the kids would enjoy doing some outside skating, not the last 3 days probably, but I mean, to me, that's hockey, and that's the avenue I support right now if we're going to continue the collaboration. And I'm disappointed that the county don't continue, because we have all these other districts we're co-oping with now. And I don't think it's fair for District 518 residents to flip the bill on a whole new ice arena in the whole city of Worthington, and then we co-op with these other kids at a minimal fee.
Steve?
Yeah, I think that the ice arena is more than just a hockey arena, obviously. There's a lot of other programs. That is a big program in there. And we have spent significant money on making sure we have the right facilities for our different programs that we have. And I think anytime we can partner with others, whether it be the city of Worthington or the community, in providing those types of services, I think we are further ahead working as a partnership and going a little bit further and getting it done than piecing it together and trying to limp something along for another, number of years. I personally would support working with the city and making this ice arena into more of a community asset that serves, not only the students that we have, but also the community as a whole. It's much like Worthington's found over the years. They put quite a bit of money into recreational activities and stuff, and we find that oftentimes the people who live outside of the city of Worthington come into the community and enjoy the benefits of it, but don't necessarily always have to pay part of the bill, except maybe through spending money within the community, which goes toward the tax structure, the business structure. But I certainly would support us talking with the city and seeing what kind of a program we could come up with. If we're going to spend $5, $6 million, $7 million on rehabbing a building, we've got another person willing to put in another $1 million here and other donations there. I think it's worthwhile for us to come there with more than just Band-Aids and look at maybe more of a project that we can work with people on and get done. So I would certainly support us, at a very minimum, I think that's what we should do, but I think we should also look at going beyond the minimum and looking at this as a bigger picture and a bigger asset to the community and an investment in our programs, along with the community investing in economic development in the city of Worthington.
With my comments, I don't mean Band-Aid it for 5 or 6 million. I'm talking the 18 to 20 million. To me, 18 to 20 million is a lot of money, and I can't believe we can't turn that into a nice facility.
I'm sorry, Adam, I misunderstood.
Yeah, I don't want to. I disagree
Okay,
with that.
I thought you were just talking about piecing it together, but yeah, if you're talking that, I certainly am behind you on that.
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So I will share, Mr. Whitblum did talk to me prior to leaving. He, and I want to be careful not to misrepresent his position, but he was excited. First of all, he's not necessarily wanting to call it an ice arena, but a entertainment venue. And he's in favor of the so-called two-sheet bigger building. And I'm not going to give you a number he shared with me because I think that would be inappropriate, but he's willing to invest into a bigger building, the larger size, to help promote everything that may go on as an activity or entertainment venue. And again, I'm trying to be careful because he shared that information with me. I don't think, but I'm not going to try and go specific to what he shared, so. And he's not here to share that, so.
Say they decide to do a $39 million two-sheet big ice arena, and they can use it for entertainment. What do they do with the current building? Is it just going to sit vacant and there it sits?
I think there's, well, at least some of the city staff talked about using it for other opportunities, indoor soccer, other entertainment type venue.
Well, the Hockey Association wants year-round ice. I get it. But if we invest into that, at what point does youth football want year-round football? What point does this sport want year-round soccer or basketball? And they come to us. I just, that's my concern is, I don't know.
And I will remind you that I did give you kind of an example to go from. That's not final or whatever. You get to make that decision. It was meant to kind of give you the opportunity to think about where you might use, example, assigned account dollars or some other funding type mechanisms. But, that was strictly an example to help you understand what's available.
Well, I certainly want to make sure that we have hockey for our kids, girls and boys hockey. Back when gymnastics was an issue, we needed a place for gymnastics. I don't know the exact numbers, $3.5 million we put into a gymnastics facility. Earlier, for tennis, we put $1 million into tennis facility, and we have a pretty nice facility now for tennis. So I want to make sure we have that. To what degree to spend money, that I can't really, I don't know, because I don't know what we're building. I don't know what the city would partner with us with. What does that look like when we have, a high school addition we're thinking about or remodel, and, we only have so much money. But so I certainly want to partner with the city if we can. At what degree, if that's $5 million, $7 million, whatever that is, I don't know what that looks like, but I certainly want to somehow make sure that we have hockey for our kids, our girls and our boys. So that's where I'm at.
I feel like before we kind of designate a dollar amount. And I know we're kind of getting to the point where we need to do that if we want talks to continue. I feel like we need to have a better understanding of like how big of a priority are we going to make a high school project in terms of renovation or addition. And, you know, we're going to talk about that later in the meeting under a different agenda item. But I think in my mind, that is a higher priority than an ice arena, and we need to talk about both of those in tandem, and probably get the high school project a little bit better situated before being able to provide a designated dollar amount for the ice arena.
Yes, I agree. I think that the high school project is going to be a little bit of a priority for myself. Not saying that I will not support some dollars for the ice and for hockey. And, you know, I think we have to find a balancing act that we can both do some of both. But I think in my mind, the high school project I'm going to give more attention to. But that's going to be a discussion with the city in the 25th to see what they're going to commit, they're willing to commit, and if it's redoing the old facility or building new, but I think we have so many dollars to spread around and we have to be careful how we do it, so.
If money wasn't an object, I would say a new arena is ideal. And I know that's what the Hockey Association has been advocating for the longevity of the sport and recreational opportunities for the kids. It would be nice to have a brand new arena. I support that concept. We just have to, you know, I think look at other financial models for similar structures and think about like how much did the school chip in. And my understanding is that typically these are very city driven and city financed. So I think just being realistic and having a better understanding of, is this something that the city is really going to take a lead on? Because I feel like that's probably where this is headed, given sort of the appetite and the dollar amounts that we've kind of tossed out here and there.
Okay, any further discussion? We're looking forward to meeting with the city on the 25th, and the board will have to decide where we want to go.
I think it's important, and I agree with Aaron and Joel, that maybe the city and the Hockey Association knows we're interested, but priority is still academics, and that's our high school.
Right.
Going forward.
Okay, just items there just for discussion this evening. Any further discussion, or are we done with it? 5.5, approved budget amendment.
Budget amendment was presented to the Operations Committee, and they were recommending approval.
Okay, I need a motion
So moved, Steve.
Second.
to approve the budget amendment.
Second.
Second by Aaron. This was presented to the Operations Committee, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.6 is approve Ag Plan Program.
I move approval of the Ag Plan program.
Motion by Adam,
Second, Lori.
second by Lori to approve the Ag Plan Program. Any discussion? Steve?
I think the Ag Department at the high school, in collaboration with the college, has put a lot of work into getting this started, and I think they understand the complexities of the program and also the benefits. And here again, first year, it's maybe going to start out a little slower, and we're going to start with a few less ideas just to make sure they can make it successful. And I think once they get the program going, I think it's going to turn into a real star in Southwest Minnesota for our district and for our area, to be able to use this property at this time for these programs, these purposes. So I think there's a lot of positive things that will come up in the future once they get things rolling. And I think they know exactly what they need to do to get there, and I think it's good. I also understand that we'll have to invest some money to get this started, but also there'll be some revenue coming in, and when they talk about what to do with that revenue, my inclination would be that we'd want to use that revenue first to offset the cost of the program, and then if there's extra revenue after that, we'd have to decide what to do with that, if that goes back into the property or it has other functions within our ag program or our school. But I think first idea for the revenue would be to supplant our costs or offset our costs to make this program start and operate.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve the plan that they presented. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.7, discussion of potential facilities and ground investments.
So with that, I shared with you that document of 4 projects. The primary projects were the high school addition, which at this point, and it's a preliminary number, as it would move forward and get designed and all that, it could ebb and flow with the costs. And again, it also is addressed depending on what you put in there, because I think there's some things that people are bringing up that weren't included necessarily in the original remodel. That's estimated at $28 million. The other projects that were there were the ice arena, and you would need to consider, it's either a $25 million or a $35 million project, depending on which route you go. The turf at the middle school is $3.5 million. And then, of course, the west property, of which, once the building is taken down, the 2 suggestions were either a softball field or some soccer fields, and that's estimated, depending on what it is, 1.8 to 2.5 million, based on the sheet. And then, of course, the funding sources can be anything from a signed account, general fund, going to the voters for a bond levy, LTFM. Some things in the high school edition could come out of food service, but that would be minimal. And then lease levy is the last option that would be there. So with that, really I wanted to get that in front of you because you're going to need to, and that will come up on the work session we have scheduled for February 7th, I believe it is, at 7 o'clock. And I will talk about having ICS down for that to kind of go a little further into some detail and how far you want to go with those and what direction you want to go with those 4 projects. So that's kind of where it's at. You can have some discussion. I've already heard that it seems like the high school addition is a priority. And again, based on that, there are a couple things that weren't included in the original diagram that we're showing, which would constitute some remodeling, which would mean a little higher cost. But again, I know they're working on trying to refine those costs, so, which I had a conversation with them at MSBA last week.
Okay, any questions for John? We'll look forward to the work session with more discussion.
Yeah, I would, so when I went to the MSBA conference last week, I attended as many sessions as possible on like financing big like facilities projects, because I figured this was coming down the pike, and I wanted to be as informed as possible about how other districts go about assessing the needs of their school buildings. One of the things that I've learned from attending those sessions is that I'm not as clear as I feel like I need to be on the specific needs of the high school building. Like I understand that there's that we want more classrooms, that it's cramped in the cafeteria and things like that. But I would really love to hear from people at the high school exactly like what are the needs and how would students' learning experience be improved by these high school additions. So I am going to, push for the facility improvements that we need for students to like have an improved learning environment. So don't get me wrong, I'm very supportive of this. But I want to be more anchored in an understanding of the true needs assessment of that building, of this building.
Yeah, and I have sent out an email to get some of that example from the food service folks and a little of that information.
Okay.
I would also encourage you, so you understand it, probably what's going on, if you can find the time to get in the building and do some visual observation, that's the best opportunity. Because if you spend an hour in the kitchen area during lunchtime, you'll see how chaotic and tight and crammed it is. So that, and again, not everybody can do that, but that really gives you as a board member an idea of what's going on. But yeah, they're working on that right now.
Okay.
And I've got a few other things that we're trying to gather up.
Okay. I think that having that like full picture needs assessment presented to the board is important before we talk to ICS about saying we want to add this or do that or that, because I think we as a board need to have a more solid position and understanding of what our priorities within that project are going to be.
Yeah, for sure, especially so when we have to sell this then to the voters.
Yeah.
They need to understand
And-
why.
And I want to be really careful about if we're going to do a bond referendum and whatever, I don't believe we should have to sell anything. We should have to explain our needs and that they're not wants. Because myself as a voter, I'm going to want to know why we need it and why they should support it. So I just, terminology gets to be very important, and it doesn't matter what we're dealing is, the terminology is important. And if I have to become a salesman, then I'm in the wrong spot. It's really about showing everybody why we need this space.
And that's why I call this a needs assessment, right? Not a wish list. And I want to understand how these changes to the building are going to impact students' learning experience. Are class sizes going to lower if we have more classrooms? Like what's going to be the impact? And so I just encourage you, as you kind of think about how to share these needs with the board, really focus on like what improvements are students going to experience with these improvements or changes.
Okay, I think we can get that information for the work session.
Yeah.
Some of it, correct?
So we'll see how far we get. I already have somebody promoting their why they need space to me today. So
Okay, well, we'll look forward to the work session and move ahead cautiously but carefully and get the input that we need from all sides.
I think it'd be good to talk to Tony and Doug, and obviously Josh, you've been there for many years, you know needs. I would reach out to them too, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a presentation. if you could put together a presentation and call it the needs assessment and present what are the top priorities for improvements to the high school and why, I feel like we could all get on the same page.
Okay, we'll look forward to that happening soon. 5.8, discussion on bond referendum, which is the same subject.
Could we make that a part of our work session?
What's that?
Could we make it a part of our work
You
session?
can, and you don't have to talk about it tonight. It's just one of those conversations that came up. I'll just share with you, because we don't have any tax impact of what that might be, primarily because we don't have a number. I can have them run a tax impact and just pick a couple arbitrary numbers. I'm always hesitant to pick an arbitrary number, because then that's what gets in people's minds. And the minute I do that, then it sometimes almost becomes gospel, and we have to be really careful about that. It's just like on the ice arena, I gave an example of how it might be funded, and the next thing I knew, people were believing it as the board had committed those dollars. So as long as we can be very clear on, these are just points to give you reference ideas, I'm okay with that. But the minute we do that, you need to know that automatically somebody's going to assume that's what you're asking for. And so I just want to be very careful about that. And the bond piece of the puzzle, it's a matter of how much you want to ask. If you take the approach of doing bonding, as well as using some of the assigned account, or you choose to go another approach, and again, I want to be careful. I'm not promoting any one approach at this point. The lease levy, which is not necessarily favorable to the ag community.
We'll have to discuss this further at the work session. We have several avenues we can use, and we'll have to develop the need is addressed first and see where the board wants to go with what is needed for the district. Okay, that's it on any more discussion on the bond referendum? That's kind of not quite ready for much discussion there yet. Okay, moving on, we'll go to the reports, 6.0.
5.9.
Oh, yeah,
5.9.
I forgot it. 5.9. Forgot about that.
Development calendar.
Budget development calendar.
So on the budget development calendar, missed this, it was not on the radar. Long and the short, it gives a timeline related to how the budget gets developed. So we typically approve this in December, not January. And so we're at the January regular meeting. And it just lays out timelines for putting things together for development of next year's budget. And some of this pertains to, usually when you reduce budgets, it becomes a lot more interest by a number of people. But in this, it just really lays out the timeline. The second part of this is the budget assumptions. So there are general assumptions that are made that are updated based on legislative action, or example in number 5, where the enrollment we believe will be at. Although I will say we did have a nice surprise in kindergarten. Our kindergarten numbers for next year look like they're going to be about that 270 plus mark, which is nice. But that also means we're going to have to potentially add staff there. Likewise, then, it lays out the rest of the general assumptions that go with that. Then there's also a fund balance section, and then a revenues assumption. So where we may get the dollars for our budget to support those expenditures. And so that's all laid out in there. And the second page, we get into the passes, which That's something you can adjust. I will tell you, we're on the low side on passes compared to other school districts. And number 10, I just want to kind of highlight, because with the egg program, that's where I had targeted some of the dollars, excess potential profit dollars that could go support all extracurriculars, as an example. Then it talks about the federal fund. If you look at item 14 on there, that's the lunch prices. Currently, right now, all kids eat free. So that's, and that's based on legislation. So that's reflected there. And then the last part is the expenditures page, where it addresses what we're assuming for budget items. It's a very general document, but it does at least keep us on track for budget development.
Okay, any questions for John? So we have to approve this plan?
Yeah, usually the board approves it in December.
Okay.
I move the budget development calendar approval.
Motion by Lori,
Second.
second by Aaron to approve the budget development calendar for 24-25. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now on to reports. John, anything?
Just one quick thing, I want to give you a heads up at the intermediate school. In the one bathroom where we had an issue last year of freezing pipes, we have that issue again here this week. And also in the district office, we had our cold water lines freeze up to two of the bathrooms as well as the drinking fountain. So we've identified where the problems are and have talked to ICS and Wold about addressing these design problems. So we'll see where that goes.
To get them unthawed or?
We got them unthawed, no burst pipes, which is a good thing.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Instructional committee?
I
That
was absent.
Who was there? Matt, myself, and Tom. I guess I'm the only one here that was at the instructional committee. I don't recall anything we had to bring to the board. Do
No.
you? Nothing major, so. Okay. Operations?
In the operations committee meeting, we did discuss the idea of bringing a referendum to a vote this November. But I think that, based on our conversation tonight, talking about that more during the work plan meeting would be best.
Okay. That's all for operations?
Yeah.
Any other business? Okay, hearing none. Any future business? We have our sessions scheduled.
Yeah.
City, the 25th, and the work session the 7th of February. Those two items are on the calendar.
Yep.
Okay, hearing nothing else, we'll call the meeting adjourned.